Good day, wonderful viewers. So, welcome to yet another episode of Talk to CNG, and I am Sukay Jajusi. Thank you for joining us once again. And of course, today in our episode, we have a prominent Gambian youth by the name of Kemo Bojang, who is actually a part of the UDP Central Committee. Kemo, you're welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay, thank you for coming, Kemo. Like I said, this is a program where we invite a prominent young Gambians, I would say, young or old, where they talk about things that are actually going on in the country, especially current affairs. Mr. Kemo Bojang, you're part of the UDP Central Committee, and we're going to start from what actually has been trending these days with regards to the president's speech that was made recently on the 27th, right there at Brikama. I've seen you posted something on Facebook with regards to Gambians not allowing the president to go for a third term. That will actually be a disaster, like you said. Tell us more about this, because it's a cause of it's a concern to a lot of Gambians with regards to his speech recently.
Yes,
Referring to
yes.
The UDP party leader, Honorable Hussein Odabo.
Okay. First of all, my statement on the president not going for a third term had very little to do with what he said about Honorable Hussein Odabo.
Okay.
My statement of him not running a third term came out of the position that if we are serious about democratization and we are serious about transparency and accountability, then it is important that we hold people accountable. The President of the Republic had said that he was going to serve 3 years when he initially came in.
Yes.
Even though we saw to it that that was not possible, at least we understood that he wanted to serve a full term. Valid. After that, he continued and contested again in 2021. And apparently, it has been said that he won the elections. Now he has served over 7 years, going on to 10. I see no reason why he must continue serving as the President of the Republic after 2026, because when we came out in 2016 to ask for change of government, one of the things that we had spoken about and campaigned, and he campaigned on, was that the President of the Republic at the time, Yahya Jammeh, had overstayed in power. And Yahya Jammeh had overstayed because he had served 4 terms in 4 terms as head of state. So President Barrow is not very different from Yahya Jammeh if he wants to contest again
For a third term.
for a third term. And secondly, today we have seen that all political unrests around the continent, and especially in our sub-region as West Africa, have the catalyst of these unrests have been overstaying in power. We saw what happened in Senegal when Macky Sall wanted to go for a third term. We've seen what happened in Guinea, and it resulted in a coup d'etat. We've seen what has happened in other countries like Burkina Faso and all of them. Kenya now with your young people coming up. So we believe that we cannot continue to let people do what they want based on their free will. Valid. A lot of people would say that the Constitution allows him to fight for another term, but when he came into government, he was supposed to usher in a new constitution that was supposed to put in a term limit to say that you need to serve 2 terms and then give way for another person. But out of reasons best known to him and his government, he has refused to enact that law, or he has refused to enact the new constitution. So are we going to let him to contest again as Gambians, or must we put pressure on him to respect the wishes and of the people, which is for our heads of state to serve 2 terms? So even if it's not a legal issue, for me, I think it's an ethical and a moral issue. And I believe that the President of the Republic cannot be let to contest again, because then it goes against all the doctrines of democracy in which he has championed, he has shown himself to be a champion of. So secondly, also, like you said, we have seen what had happened in Bekama, and I think it's very unfortunate for a head of state and someone who is supposed to protect life and property of every citizen of this country to stand at a podium and castigate and even wish death upon an individual and an elder statesman and a former vice president of this country. And for me, people say that it wasn't threatening. I believe it was threatening in the context that he had mentioned that he had signed a contract. A contract with who?
We've seen people, some of his ministers and people like CNG, that came out and said it was like, it's not like how people say it. It's basically a saying that people will say, okay, come see all of Hananga dede balang mako def something like that, wala janim bakala for something like that. Like that is what actually CNG came up with. So what would you say about that?
CNG is not the alpha and omega. CNG is not the most educated when it comes to contextualization. You are a Gambian, you are fluent in local languages, and you know the context that the president spoke in. I am a Gambian.
It's very clear.
Yes, I am a Gambian, and I speak local languages, and I am fluent in them. Everybody who listened to that statement knows what the president meant, and we have seen the repercussions. And this is not the first time that he has threatened citizens. We had what happened with Madi Jobate also, when he spoke at the State House and said that people like Madi Jobate are the reason this country is not moving forward, and that his government will make sure that they put them in their place. This is a repetition of that, but this one is a bit more serious because he has, or it's more serious, not even a bit, it's more serious because he has threatened the life of an individual, a party leader. And I like to tell President Barrow that now that he has said this, anything that happens to His Excellency Hussein Odabo, the President of the Republic, will be held liable for it and will be held responsible. And he must be careful, because you are talking about someone who is the leader of the biggest political party in this country, and he has people that are his followers and will do whatever he says. So we must be able to be responsible in our speech, especially as leaders, because we expect more from them. But if a head of state can be that irresponsible in speech, then it really begins the question of how far have we come since 2016 when we ushered in the supposed New Gambia. Has anything really changed in the New Gambia, or are we just following a trend? And for me, I believe it's just a trend, because we have asked for security sector reforms. One could say there are activities going on, but have we seen a reform in the security sector? Not really. We still see brutalization by the police and security forces on people. Have we had prison reforms? Not really. Have we had public service reforms? Not really. We are seeing the likes of Nene McDowell-Gay, who are being recycled back into the civil service. We're seeing the likes of Njoguba, who have been recycled back into the civil service. Do you mean to tell me that you and I, as young Gambians, stand no chance of serving our country as civil servants, and that we are not good enough and we cannot serve our country, that people who have been part of a system that put this country in this mess are the only people who can continue to serve in government? We are also seeing that no political reforms have taken place. Just in February, he supposedly called for a national dialogue, where they hypocritically said that they were going to talk about peaceful coexistence among political parties and political heads. And we have seen what has happened since then. It has been one disrespect to another to political leaders. It has been one statement of impunity to another to political leaders. So the president is not sincere in his speech. The president is not sincere in what he is saying, that he wants to unify the country. And I see him as a divisive factor and not a unifying factor.
Not a unifying factor. Kemo ngana fanang ngajele ko. Like you've said, UDP is actually one of the biggest opposition, I would say, opposition party in the country. But we've seen that when it comes to elections, it just becomes difficult to lead. Reasons I cannot say. What do you hope to see come 2026, because it's fast approaching? Do you need a change of leadership? What exactly do you guys think needs to be done?
First and foremost, I think elections are divided into three ways. You have the pre-election, the election itself, and post-election.
Yes.
So pre-election, what's most important, and not just at our party's level, is at the level of the electioning body or the electoral body, that we need to see electoral laws enacted. Many along with political party protect the candidate will protect. Okay. I think we have spoken about a lot of mishaps. Many along election. Gambia election will book a cheat on election day. ngambel election okay cheat le before election. Nte personally, and I will go to my grave with that. I would never believe 2021 elections were free and fair. Based on the fact ko ni mol ben na community ko non meli alon ko ngalon ko manke gambe di wolde bari kayto so te carte fay bari so wol mu kulle di meli alon ko fonsa ko jibe ko ten so electoral act needs to be reformed nyanda sotola in within our electoral laws even more be carte so la nyadi foni alkalo attestation is something that we have to look into ning census mengi. Is it going to give us the defined numbers of more Jileba Banko Kang, Gambian Jileba Banko Kang, foreigner Jileba Banko Kang? So, because Niajibe, in a country of 2.5 million people, need to go almost 900,000 more cartes. And we continue to say the population of this country didn't know anything for Ninkele Siata. I think it raises a question because you cannot tell me over 60 to 70% of the population. Over 60% of the population will be a cartes. Oman possible.
No.
Dindi waldung musu control ninke control melian ko manta carte nyeno la dum. So these are all questions. And in melian go they are qualified by the manta voters card nyeno la fanando. So nyeng factual be consider. Ika mike mirale how is it possible? Ko in a country of 2.5 million people, we have 900,000 eligible voters. So wol mu kulle di melian ko nyantaji and we need to have a conversation on it. Ane ku faje ko ning akakwale apun ka win. Bari inyina defanan ko dibite carte fayo kabra keta ntolle popular vote soto yeah ntolle popular vote soto inyada ko local government election kabra keta ntolle fana popular vote soto councilorship election kabra keta ntolle popular vote soto ninko popular vote wolem ko ni carte be la nyoka yemen soto wala siyata wodo sa sira wasa siya no itati bari ni carte be la nyoka ite carte keso men soto wala ka siya wodo tati so for me ni ntelem nung NPP the Nkunga presidential election will win 450,000 or 400 something thousand vote. May second position ta way 238,000 votes. But in election will get a lesser elections. May 238,000 votes. Aka almost 219, 220 or 21,000 every election. Ntemen konte 450,000 votes nte buka 190 sindi no.
That raises a question.
Wato mu question wal tando mfo yanta ajibela mfanto nga honest. Nga lonko maybe but what's in the past is in the past. Ndara court ye bankan na electoral fenko lamoy. Na case lamoy ya trash out even janna be hela because imala fi evidence sol na mel soto pour ka table pour mugambe di wali aje ko election ta nya mo manyan taraw nya. But going forward fana yenye nkaro ke ko for leadership change nyanda sotla. Ntolo ya believe ko menye kala party okono ninga wato sita party di won lebe findila ya fu ko la fanyin nyin neke. But as of today and as of now, ntolbe ben lame kan na party odi won lale ntolme be nyaton kayato katum believe tale ko ntol damma ko carte ganye itolle ka tara constituency to itolle ka tara mol bul itolle ken nim mol ka tara nyoka ke la moy mol andung ninga wato sita sante man candidate soto but ninga wato sita ning candidate selection wato sita be fintila nanne andum ba jibela nyanta kala nyame and party statement o dile non ka fuko wokolu ngatuje funding award was it then means sinakaja. But we will take a position which will not be based on emotion and which will not be based on mola lafodama marimba jibela mensa bango sambano nyato and then that will be a strategic position me alon ko ningata mfoyal na ko tani misala ko.
Okay, I think that would be a good start. Niya jibe fanang Gambia kono cool siatale like every day ni wulta like murder cases are on the rise. Ni nata drogo la photo the youths are dying. Cool siatale. So would you describe the Gambia as a failed state like many people would say?
I believe it is. I believe fananko it is failing because man good leadership la soto. In the areas of drug abuse, intending the Lord Mayor, we are currently working on a project and believe to go in NACOF Sita Lemba before NACOF, which is the National Youth Convergence. Yes. Every 2 years. This year, Nadia Raile KMC Leba Hosla. So we are planning on rolling out a project with the KMYC, in which we will support when it comes to drug abuse, advocacy, but in Yaji we menka drogo si and develop juvenile delinquency. juvenile delinquency wala mnakita funding kel siata wala dindingol siata andung maralo tela anim fana mutadula tela KMC jankabintol nata nga wuli nga million muang or 20 million dundi funding kel la kul konole na loan sol di le na microfinance sol di mbota woto nim bachkal ikamen jafana tuktukol nga wul fana di funding kel la kabringa na Marcel fana lo nga bitik dantantale ko nyimu funding kel la bitikol le so nim funding kel mel nata apply mba di le la woldo mbota woto fana during covid na $1 million fana di funding ke business tiol la hani kunun ko men bota dorom bota $250,000 di la business dollar nga $200,000 na $275,000 fana di business dollar wolbe mona de kaji be funding kel la soto nya fana so ne andela nyaadi le andu wo mukul te me alon ko hani nyim marché kutol be mel loka ani na nyim park sol through the cap project be mel kaka wolbe mu welle de kaji be funding kel ma ko la nyame a few weeks ago ntani me on a presentation okele to the service chiefs within the Kanifing Municipal Council kajibe ni be doko kala nyaadi la service chiefs wala police wala security apparatus sol la nyato kolti kajibe be doko kala nyaadi le menyen droko combat la nyame bari ka me realize wala ko nen droko ata combat la no fonni mampare ka tonya fanyoe ka to melka drogo sama nanja sembuti la nyimbanko kan andu isa ko keno unfortunately it ni ko ibe kelela in enforcement ka kelo murundi kan wala sembo ka wara bari andu wotumo ka fala Guinea Bissau tinyata bari bi Gambia le fo tinyata Guinea Bissau because Guinea Bissau is often kelo le benunje rebellion lom they fight for independence atina ila security nata fragile bi ndolla problem wol na border lom election on ka problem on sort of with cross border voting drogol fananga cross border traffic wala nyama so that same problem be wala face can be because a lot of the drugs because coming on a presentation okay unfortunately man la fi bankol to fala because it might lead to a lot of xenophobic discourse but in an drogol ikabo sate dole to na nin barbarol la ikadunna banko kan andum fana Gambia kata re-exporting position for drugs because even Senegal drug jama kata Senegal aka follow jan so be mu quality me along ko
so you're basically saying the government is aware that drugs are coming in.
Oh yes, I mean every day we are told children are dying of push. How do you think it's coming into a country that is surrounded on three sides by another country and then on the west by the Atlantic?
So the problem starts with the government.
Oh yes, there needs to be policies that will. But hani niya policy samana. And two, do we have any rehabilitation centers in this country? Elalonko drug molu, emelbe drug makang, niye mbod drug koto, ibe maakale nyadi rehabilitate is another question. For investment bakakan ne bang, puru kaje ko nyingkolu mba kele la nyadi le. Kaya lon tolo kame understand welem ko niye project ko samana. It needs to be sustainable. We don't just want you to launch projects me alonko. They have no sustainability aspect of it, and abedanna just ye launching ke. Activity done tanke and that's it. So yeah, give funding kill man do ko soto. And wala dina be ka crime for it's on the rise. Because Kongo na mo muda abe fintala anyina ba so na na ma so ta nyanda so la dam abe mo la attack la ya table. Wala na bi mo fa be siaring wala na amro be siaring sunyaro ba siaring it's unfortunate. But in bejekiren ko ningbe mblodi nyola nga political put aside ninko political put aside wala na difference nga put aside nga Gambia je wala imbe dogo kila no ando mbenyim banko sambala no nyaado
sign thing like for like do you see any efforts coming from the government with regards to all of these things that you've mentioned, like them coming out putting in an effort to make sure these things are handled?
I think the police are doing the little they can, but the police fanang they are constrained because niaji be for example police motojelle be bulu. For example, motorcycle level police or equipment table. Even the facilities, for example, you go to other places and then you look at the state of police stations. You know how they are really underfunded. So jannim president waka pikopol sankadi ala political party la. Wokodo sitano nung ka motor sankadi police la. Jannim president wabe motorcycle ol sankadi ala mall la. Wokodo sitano nung ya di immigration officer la pour kana border ninkudol patrol. So it's all about priority. Mansakunda, I Gambia will prioritize Lebanon. Five political prioritize. Unfortunately, I politically prioritize. Being a member of Kenim Banko and corruption and everything. a bebe sonde munella mansa melbe mansa kunda ni president wala party yoto hanni be mansa kunda ita mantara president wala party yoto they victimize you andun tole karre fayo kabimbe karre fayo lan ko lafta wala bondira ja but wal mambo jam follow andun they don't look like you bola jang anytime soon with this government we have today.
Okay. They don't look like Ibebola Jam anytime soon. Be reminded that you're watching Citizens Network Gambia, and this is actually Dr. CNG. Kemo Janim Bebulala. What do you think will change when if UDP should come into government? Because Ngajele Jawara, late President Jawara Natale Atata, he ruled for like 33 years. Jamie came, he ruled for 24 years, and now Barrow is here for a second term, about to go in for a third term. What do and people would say the country is still the same. There's no system change. Like the same people are there.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing that they've been doing for decades. What do you think will change if UDP should come into power come 2026, inshallah?
Inshallah, I think lowering dam and what we have planned is all documented in our 5-point agenda and our manifesto as a whole. But most important for us is Human Development Index and how do we develop our human resource. Gambia is not fortunate to have gold, diamond, and silver, but Gambia is fortunate to have very vibrant people, especially our young generation. How do we harness our demographic dividend, and which is called the impact kela funding kel kanyadi le me alonko na funding kel bajela ko Gambia jarta en pour ay tu jang ay do ko ke ay fan sutra jang. For example, ni ngete nyininga, what does it mean to be Gambian? Gambia ite na famu na labi. There's nothing as a young person it is hafu you know ko nyimbango ye na famen. Fana manke ko iwulu tajan. Bari wala nyanta falinna. Ando we falin nyaade walam ko nyaton kaya kendo nyanta wala sotla. One, ntolo be men jibe la walam ko ngafa nyame walam ko how do we invest in our human resource? Walam funding kel ke karandi me cholla. Dunia bankol mel be developed. It developed nyaadi le katum meje karamay wala ke. Kabrin Second World War banta, Europe came with the era of reconstruction. Era of reconstruction munati walam kaje ko tinyaro kata sa aninga mol karandi me chola.
Okay.
Pour wala na Europe lo kote. Bi Angleterre lambang, Switzerland lambang, Sweden lambang, Germany lambang, wo mo kili wala lo. Unfortunately Gambia bi ite kante interview Michael Memfonga ntol buka adano. Hani peno me anko ibasa fero kala am buka adano. Wala nyanta falin na follow. Andu ni wo falinta economy fanan be falin na wala. Katum bi ntol la dala so wabe boy kan nyame ite mira woto mo sefani dala so temo. Andu bi mira be dame. Munatin na katum buka feng export so we don't have any bargaining power. Kodo, it is based on dollar la value and in dollar la geo na la selo. But in Gambia fana ya dati ka coal export and we and nga katapur kan na dollar so segment ya. Be so ne ala because ning for the international market to fana ba bargaining power sotla. O mutuldi but woka Kenya ni la mole mecho soto ye la market will grow for it's a drano for ya dada in surplus for ifana ka wa fi bantala bankolo. That's one. Two, nana education of fana jibe nga be revamp. Ninga revamp malam ko nga molke not to become job seekers but to become job creators. Ofanambe kala nyadi mbe innovation le impact learning ICT and again technical skills hands on education sector kono. Ni bota woto munan nan to labba dal nyanta tarla jambi nyoda ko ata Gambia because we are one of the only countries in the world me alon ko GOA bank woni farafulati. Gambia you have the South Bank, you have the North Bank.
Yes.
Why is it ko ntolo nyoda ko ata banko kan? Why is it because we are not managing our marine life and in the marine species for modul ka bantala banko to wala kanake. For Gambian alta duna no mbako na nyawo produce nga jibe mbakle nyamba. And how do we involve and bring innovative technologies pour kana fisheries sector fana impact? Ko ngamen fo our resource na ba fana mun na resource la. Ni boda wodo you look at for example ye luwal fana ndo jibe. Na luwal bi kuya wanyanda falin na jele UDP man sakunda ko nate nata be luwal la falan na katon to lapati o patio menta me anko luwal molu mele anko ye luwal karam wolle je.
Okay.
The security sector reform be men wanyanda kelale and anyanda kelale kabring public service reform anyanda kelale kabring political reform solo anyanda kelale so nyulbe mu quality me alonko UDP man sakunda ko nin nata be nyulle kala. For example, back to the education setting. Munatina, for example, ndola education as English speaking formal ta nyame. Muna na Arabic school or fanan manya na formal na wanyama. Why is it called Arabic school? Nina the do you know, for example, even in government, they are always at a disadvantage because of an imang angale kaumay.
Yeah.
So we'll be for
Mm-hmm.
example, how do we formalize Dara Crown? Because dol bije ikata majalis mo leto ka crown ke ikata dara leto. Muna nani wal jita school inter certification or provide le no. For example, naga kamenke. Puri accredit. Why can't we have a body that will accredit Arabic schools or even Daral Malayalam ko? Nila dino le Al Quran o tanka. Ye certificate o dina la member kala ko higher diploma. For example, wolbe mu ko le Malayalam ko mbaji ka. Nina la to the area of sports. It's unfortunate ko up to this day. Gambia Stadium killing for Ngamen Soto. It's almost 2 years. Manna football games will play.
It's not even qualified this year.
Exactly. So we are looking at to invest in sports. You talk about agriculture, food self-sufficiency. Because in 12 we have always said the Maputo protocol that says 10% of your national budget needs to go into agriculture. The UDP nata melola kuala like haje kumbakela. And obekela ngade walam ko you bring innovation and then you bring technical hands-on skills into agriculture. And unsakeno because we have the River Gambia. How come until kamano mendomo until kamano domo every day Gambia buka mano produce no? How come me and control CC is one of our biggest protein and inyo until can CC import na? What's wrong with here $10 million star? Yeah, tala in the 10 young farmers like Aldong poultry farm. What's wrong with here $20 million star? Yeah, the 20 young people are from Jahal in Pachar. And for example, until come in agriculture, combo, badale bentol bulu. We focus on fisheries in combo. North Bank, and in LRR, yalong ko wolu maybe animal husbandry sa kenoje. Ya livestock production kewoto. You go to CRR, yalong ko CRR north and south, yalong ko je the river is fresh. You do rice production.
Yes.
You go to URR, yalong ko walsa kudo keno like a cotton ginnery, walsa cotton produce no. What more cotton ka produce there? What am livestock production ka keji ika cheese that je jawaralo jamano.
Yes, I remember back then in school we used to export cotton.
Yes.
And groundnut.
So, but it be Gambia can groundnut import from Burkina Faso, from Senegal, from Mali. And do what Gambia used to be number 2 when it came to production of groundnut. Nigeria da Mali be nyar. So be will be
Yes.
And the other thing is how do we service our debts? UDP mazakundana ta ninjulo melbe ba sitting kamala is either we service them or we get debt relief. Kabri said that when our Sane were in government, Gambia was able to get a lot of debt relief because they knew what they were doing. But unfortunately, we have got into more debt. Itebe julo kono, idingol be julo kono, wol dingol be julo kono, kodo me alon ke madam. So wol be mo ko le me alon ko we are looking at changing them as a government, and UDP can find it as a government in waiting already. And if you want to see what our central government UDP would do, look at what our area councils are doing. Look at what Rohilo is doing in Bandu. Look at what Talib Bensouda is doing in KMC. Look at what Yankuba Daba is doing in West Coast or Bekama. Look at what Landing Sane is doing in LRR. Ning UDP Mazakunda Sita, Minindogo Kewan. So that is just a summary of what we plan on doing. But if anybody wants to know further, the 5-point agenda is everywhere, or you can go on our website and also you can check our manifesto and it will give you an idea. And the manifesto is both in English and it's in Arabic. Because mtolo believe tele ko Arabic student will find the same opportunity le soto mtolo me yango na angale kan kara mkamel soto kani banko ni ber dentala and wo mu kulti me alon gomba sembentu yandel.
Okay. Yeah, member for it's really important, and I think Gambians should really consider these points because Nia Yafanang listening to all that you've said, whatever banko fango sambalanyato. What do you think with regards to us Gambians with the positions that we're given? Because Natara, the same person is holding the same position during Jammeh's era. And now in Barrow's era, the same person is holding that same position, and every year you hear about corruption scandals in these institutions. What do you think needs to be done? Like, do you think the people that have been there for decades need to move or something like that?
I think it depends on the productivity of the individual and what they have been able to offer Sometimes more office auto amankala faulty because they have not been able to deliver. Sometimes it's the environment that they're working in, or it's just the grand leadership of it all. But we have dedicated Gambians. It doesn't mean they're terrible or bad.
Yes, we
But
have
we
some.
do, yes, but we do also have people along home. We told you in an banko and unfortunately, now all legend in Mansakunda Kilon. I believe like if a commission is set up and people find one thing.
Yes.
And Amankeko, sometimes you can say maybe they haven't followed a process, which is understandable. Maybe governance process is more followed so quality, so they are found guilty of something. But appropriately yaje ko mo nyumare in koro domale. O yalam ko ay bankol na follow tinyane. Hano be yo kule murundi nang, then it tells us that you are not really ready for change, or you are finding accomplices maybe ma ko ila na follow tinyakon. So I believe Kodal, Ntolu Gambiano, Ite, and every other young person men qualified does have a stake in running and serving your country. So the government has no faith in the young people of this country that they have to recycle old people. Mele alonko ibijenu yetinyaro ki ye bondi. Nakite you are an old person ibijenu ye bondi. Salam safuko abedoko la wala tena. But yeke ye bondi yes dolfo ye samba prison. Kafuko ye sunyaro le ko yetinyaro le. Yo mo kilon fintin nan ko ye murun na yeke government ko tan. What are you telling people?
Yes.
Or what message are you sending? So womu kultime yanko gambe di nganti hakilo la je bake kaje ko nyimman sakunda man serious when it comes to fighting corruption. Nimman sakunda man serious when it comes to building a physical discipline. Nimman sakunda man serious when it comes to cutting costs, because melbe en ko kanu foitol man sakunda kilimo lo de ko bol bola man sakunda yo mo kilimo la sawana ko tem pour wala tara man sakunda.
Yes.
Yeah, so they are not honest and they are not sincere to the Gambian people.
They are not sincere. That would take us to the end of this episode. What's your advice to Gambian youths in general, as a youth and a prominent person?
What I'll just like to say is that I'm urging all Gambian youths to see country first, and that even though we might have differences in our ways of thinking or our political linings, what is most important is that we're able to always be there to sacrifice for our country. And I hear a lot of young people say that they are not partisan or they are not part of politics. It's unfortunate, because in the end, you're governed by politicians. Everything you do is determined by a politician. When during COVID and when politicians went to the House of Parliament to say that everybody should be in their houses by 10 o'clock, they restricted your movement.
Yes.
But it was passed by the Parliament, and we had curfews in place. Politicians were able to restrict your movement. When policies are made by these politicians, it has a direct impact on your life. I'm asking and urging all young people to see politics not as the enemy, but as a means and a vehicle of effecting change. While as it's beautiful to be in the civil society, it's beautiful to be in all other aspects of society, politics is also one aspect that they need to look into and see as a vehicle of change. And in fact, it is the most potent vehicle of change, because regardless, whoever you like it or not, a politician is going to govern over you. So it is important, why not you become that politician that's going to govern over the people rather than be governed. But it's also important that we try and get the technical skills necessary for any field that we are in, because the Gambia is still an enchanted territory, like I like to say. There are so many opportunities in this country. We just need to get the leadership right. But we have potential. We are a very young population, and there's so much that we can give this country. We just need to get our hearts and minds in the right place.
Thank you for coming, Kemo.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. This is Citizens Network Gambia. Until then, have a nice day.